Good afternoon. My name is Elie. I work for Google in the United States, and I'll take a couple of minutes to tell you how we try and protect our Gmail mailboxes. From the beginning, we use AI and machine learning systems to protect the users. If you wish, you can find my slides. They're available. You just have to click on that link. I would like to talk to you about a research project that we've worked on with my Gmail team. And I remember when I first arrived, we were already filtering about 300 billion of documents per week to be protected by from malware. It's a task that is quite arduous because on this scale we just have a few milliseconds to make a decision, and we need to make millions of them per second, which forces us to build protections that have a great level of reliability. When we look at what was happening in 2019, we realized that the majority of malware were targeting our user were Office documents and PDF at the time, and that was going to be important, just represented a small portion of it. So carrying out the analysis of our directives, it was about trying to understand and anticipate the needs of our product, and taking a look at the blind spots of our production, we understood that most of the malicious documents were escaping our detectors. So one of our projects we had started was to develop a personalized, a tailor-made detector that would meet with the needs of Google and increase the level of protection, being a professional or a regular email user. So what I'd like to do today is let you know why it's difficult to do so, how our malware detection system works, how we detect new scanners. I don't know how much we'll be able to develop in this 30-minute time period. But there's a lot of changes going on constantly, so it's not easy to follow. Why is it easy to detect malicious documents? If we make a comparison with the image detection, well, the image detection for a cat, for instance, you know, a cat has pretty much always the same head, being 20,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago or now. We have 63% of the malicious docs blocked by Gmail that are different from day to day. That means that they do not belong to different families of attacks, but they are different enough to not be considered similar. And this creates an instability, which becomes problematic, because we're used to have a stable set of representative documents, which is totally impossible for us because it does change from day to day. Another issue that we're facing that might not be so well known is that the malicious document volume greatly varies from one day to day. We can see 3 times more variation of malware in a day, and the volume varies from one day to the other. Another example that I'd like to give. We worked with Loki with a ransomware that was renamed Necure in 2016, and we had up to 100 million lucky samples per day, followed by zero activity. And the variation, could change in a period of time of 3-4 days. This one, for instance, was easy to localize, but it's not always like that. It comes and goes, and it's not a steady process. There's no way to enhance the process like we do with other issues, like the visual part, for instance. We need to use different processes. So why malicious documents are particularly hard to identify? Well, the majority of those docs are OFISC, and mostly the attackers have a huge possibility to show. This is an example of a document we could classify. It's an IMOTEP document, and what's important to remember here is that the way it is ciphers and the names have been changed, and there's a lot of what we call dead codes at the bottom of the email. So this is all made to avoid the detection of the usual softwares. Another example here for an Excel file, for instance, all the TTP, technique and protocol. They like to insert part of the code in the cells, which means that we need to combine what the user see and what's part of the script to have a global vision of the document. This is something they do on a daily basis. The issue here is why, spending so much energy when it's usually a binary process. Well, the answer is that GML, since it was funded, have decided we would need to make a decision on these specific data. We needed to become experts on this type of document. This is why this is a technology unique and not as developed as the malware detector systems. And the fact that Gmail forbid the executable made us change a whole set of processes, and that, of course, there was an answer, a response given to this type of encrypted technology. So there's many possibilities, and these are classic examples that I gave here. So once you know this, how do we do to counter all these malware? Who uses Gmail as a professional or personal mailbox? So pretty much everybody. So how do we deal with your inbox to prevent malware to intrude? Well, we use a policy engine that decides on the compatibility of the system, and this is efficient since 2017. We also forbid JavaScript. We carry out an analysis, and we understood that the use of JavaScript by individuals was extremely scarce, and it was used a lot by professional attacks. So each one of these decisions will go through different funnel according to the type of information. They go through scanners, and that will, combine different documents in order to make the decision to see if we should deliver or not the document in your mail. These are the basics. So parts policy, parts engine, and a bit of ensemble learning. One of the questions one might ask is what to do when we have people at risk to be attacked by very evolved malware, where in some cases we have the possibility to send those files in sandboxes that are used to supplement detection when needed. Again, with 300 or several hundred billions of documents, we cannot do this for all documents. We need to be very selective and need to decide on processes. Knowing that it works this way, why, balancing between cost and opportunity, well, we based our logic on the classification of 3 different malwares, everything, for instance, generated by the dark web, basically the classics, people that are more crafty in their use. They have a lot of experience in their job, but they're aiming large-scale scamming. And aiming a specific company, and for those ones we need sandbox. But between the buff malware and the sandbox, there's a huge gap. But that is not so expensive as a sandbox in order to be widely developed. So we decided to fill up that gap, and we called we're trying to solve this problem with this type of schemes, and we know there's a lot of AI, and we've always been using AI in the past 20 years. And now we do have all the collaborative features, but really, AI was always almost the DNA for Google. So for the malicious detection of documents, this is what we use. But in the in that case, in 2019, that was making a lot of sense. We have a huge training basis. And we know that there are plenty of possibilities in terms of text types, but we've already had quite a decent success using this method, using the machine learning, for instance. The one different thing from the AI is that we haven't tried to replace the existing possibilities. We're trying to use complementing models. The idea was to try and find some indicators that could not be captured by other systems, and this is how we've been evolving. So again, talking about the moonshot, how does it work practically? So we have the documents and a system and an analysis, an assessment analysis that is an open source software. And so what does this system do? It will extract features on documents, on the document itself, and this will be given to the machine learning. At the same time, we add up a set of analysis for everything related to macro and script language, and in order to obtain a representative system with the script language on the one hand and the document, the type of document on the other hand, to try and understand what the document does. Practically speaking, what we did is that we added up another scanner on the system. And it's carried out with the classic TensorFlow on our AI platform. And when we launched it, we launched it with one scanner. Again, the idea was not to reinvent the wheel, but to complete the system. So we hear that AI is used a lot, but our idea here is always to make sure that it's really helping our users. So the answer is yes. This is the breakdown for 2021. So I wanted to take the whole 2021 year set of data. And as to the office and the office documents only, we went to we raised our capacity by 36%. That identified by both our systems, and the other one, the part not detected by the AI but detected by the other technique, was also helping a great deal, and that made a huge difference. That decreased the volume of attacks. You know, sometimes the machine learning does 78% more of the work than the AI, so it's rather significant. So it's working, you know, double shift pretty much. And if you didn't suffer from too many malware in your mailbox, it's probably because of the machine learning's actions. And that's it. I would like to provide you with a little bit more content. This is this is a screenshot of the production. We were willing to have an internal vision. This is the production graphic we have with what's been detected from the AI in yellow, and by classic methods, and in green by scanners, and the blue one by the second scanner. So here you can get a pretty clear idea of how this what it's comprised of and how things are distributed. So it really depends on the day. These are non-stable data, but this was carried out thanks to the use of AI and machine learning. So again, this is not a perfect solution, but it's there to be as specific as possible. And you see here, these are the variation per, during a day where the system was not able to detect certain attack campaigns. Again, we're always relying on previous example, but since there are new forms each time, this is how we're relying on the other detection scanner. So again, this is not a perfect system, but it does bring an added value to the whole thing. And if we're now trying to get a bit more in the gist of things, what happens when there's an attack? When does AI bring some value? When does it not? This is a classic attack, that took place on December 2nd, and it's a real attack that that took place in a few hours. X is the volume. This is the detection for all, and the machine learning could detect upstream the attacks and protect the work of the AI. So here you can see how how it's all articulated. And I know that a lot of people use VirusTotal, and it's also a matter of lapse. And usually by the time the threat would reach the user, well, for us, it's already gone. This is the good thing of that system. This is another type of attack, an Excel file attack, being forged, I think. I think you can see here the different variables that manage to get out of detection. And here again, you see that the possibility, the complementing possibility when the first system cannot do it all, where we do complement the job, and this is where the scans work really well. I'm not gonna cover all takeaways again, but again, the use of this technology was conceived to work alongside with the system and not necessarily to replace it. So there's been a lot of debates on how IA will replace all of this system. Well, I don't think it's meant to assume this tasks. It will be all about solving sub problems and trying to be more specific, more precise, and complement existing system. And then quickly, because I don't have a lot of time, I wanted to talk about Emotet, which was the biggest one at the time in 2020. That was the most famous botnet, if I may say. You can, you have a great representation of the timeline here with the amount of campaigns that were organized. And what's important for us here is that there was this moment here in the middle. You see the document, and if we manage to block these documents, all these macro issues and so on, well, it will never reach the user. And this is why the more you're able to reduce the amount of malware, the more you can absorb the majority of what users target. So sometimes you're under the impression that it's not so active, but it's really about what happens in a specific at a specific time, and what's the decision. Another campaign that was shut down by Gmail. Here you see the work of the scan that did a great deal of the work. Blue was what we were able to do for the client, and this is how a campaign got entirely blocked for 3 days, and the AI basically blocked all of it. This already talked about. Emotet was taken down by Europol alongside with other actors of the industry. And the idea was to start their work with Excel. And again, in 2021, you see the timeline. Well, it's no longer Word documents that are at stake, but Excel documents. The BURSZTEIN published a very interesting timeline about this. For the same issue, the code was mostly hidden in a spreadsheet, and then they would register the APIs, and it was very difficult to discover it and to catch and to detect those ones. And this is how we extended our AI scanner to reach the fourth scale. Another type of attack that had impacted 300 Excel files, and this is just to show the capacity and the technique that is not only related to Office documents. It's just that at the time it was our first source of malware, and we thought it was an interesting technique for the industry because it was a technique that was working with script language. And we thought it was adding value to the whole thing, being Gmail or other types of products. Now in 2023, what else? What can be done? What has changed really? Two main things. Since there was a lot of inefficiency in terms of macro and malware, well, the PDF has become again number one, and because of the expectations and of regulations, we are going through the hybrid type of servers, which creates new difficulties to have the same level of security. So this is why that explains also why phishing documents are the best way to attack users. And on this, we had also been working in the past 2 years to create something to block documents, but Microsoft decided to disable Office macro once and for all, which pushed and forced any possible attacks to change their tactics. I know that some people like to see the telemetry. This is a malicious document, and you could see for a long time this type of documents and the type of attacks it would suffer. And you can definitely see that there's we don't have the same level of understanding. Things have become a lot more complicated because they contain not only scripts but also images, and it makes the whole thing more delicate. And this totally may be the main new vector where we'll need to focus in order to try and mitigate the consequences. For the last few minutes, I'd like to talk about about the privacy requirements. There's more and more expectations in terms of private data all around the world, especially in Europe, as we know. And one of the ways for Google and Workspace to approach all of this is the site encryption, that allows you to have an encrypted access and message from the beginning to the end. And this is how we have carried out all of this, all these processes on the different Workspace or Gmail access. Again, as I was telling you, our main focus is how to protect users that are not able to scan the content. So again, there's a trade-off here. Some people want more privacy, more security. It's a hard balance. So how could we bring out more feature in order to enhance the capacities? So we can work on the on-device models, the confidential computing, or the morphism. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is that we're currently trying with on-device models, which creates difficulties, because using a computer or phone is not the same. We're not using the same road. But we are able to become faster and faster each time, and each time being more specific. We're reaching a level of 90%.
But we are trying to close the gap, although there's been great progress, and we are trying to look for solutions when it comes to regulation and privacy, while trying to reconcile everything, although we have technical constraints. So the conclusions are the same. Now, I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you for being here today. I hope that this session was interesting, and feel free to ask questions. Inaudible. We cannot hear the questions. So first question, what do we do to understand what's happening? We are debugging. We are trying to use AI descalability as well, but sometimes it doesn't work. We're trying our best. And if I'm not mistaken, you wanted to know what we do knowing to the rapid changes of documents. Was that your question? Well, it's very complicated, but we need to use different techniques, which might endanger our system. In any case, we need to find solutions because our data changes constantly. So I can't say much in this regard. Hello, you talked about Office document files, but you haven't talked about malicious enclosed files sent per email. What do you do in this regard? Well, this is a very good question. So what do we do when it comes to enclosed files, including links with malicious content? So we have safe browsing. You can also use it. It protects Gmail, Chrome, Android, and iPhones. So this is a detection system to analyze pages and content. You can't necessarily use it for all type of contents. There still are links which are not included. So the email is scanned, we take the link, and then we use the reputation of the sender, of the receiver. Do you also look into the total virus level? Well, as I said, we see the malicious emails much before Aristotle. And for URLs, we use web browsing. With Aristotle, Google don't do much more. It's pretty similar. So we use a lot of AI, we compare emails, we use reputation, IP reputation, for example. This is very useful. And for end-to-end encrypted, it's very different. Today, the links content analysis refers to this document, and we have an 80% success rate. It's not perfect yet, because we need more factors. There are caveats. Some knowledge is obsolete, but we are trying to improve. It will never be perfect, because we don't have capacity to crawl. So I hope I answer your question. And second question, if I may, you talked about end-to-end encrypted. So what do you do with zip and encrypted files? And can we use IA, for example, to detect something suspicious? Because there is no red banner, for example, with Gmail, and I think that this is quite a pity. Well, it's not easy. If it's encrypted and we don't have a password, we won't be able to do much. And it's very difficult to do that. What about alerts? Mere alerts. Well, it's a possibility. There were tests. It's a difficult topic because some malwares are archives and encrypted files. When we have an encrypted zip file, it's always malicious. Yes, but if you look at global telemetrics, it's not that simple. But this is a topic we are trying to look into. You're right. Thank you. Last question. Hello. Thanks for giving me the floor. So I'd like to know whether your web browser is working with some public authorities. For example, CertAffer, which can detect upstream some malwares and malicious softwares. Do you retrieve such information to train your web browser? The answer is clear, no. For one reason, we do not share our users. So it's clear that we don't do it with Gmail. It's unequivocal. This is personal data, users' personal data. But then the data which is shared by users themselves is not up to us, but we cannot do this. It was the easiest question. In any case, thank you very much for your attention. And have a lovely day.